Dark Sky Films has just released the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in 4K. Let's see if it's worth picking up. What's up, everybody? John here from What's Johnny Watching, your place for physical media reviews and collecting. And today, I'm going to talk about one of the greatest horror films ever made, the 1974 Tobe Hooper classic, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Released in 4K for the first time by Dark Sky and MPI Films. Now, before I get into all the technical aspects of the film and everything, I remember as a child, there were only a handful of films that my parents flat out refused to let me watch. I think one was The Exorcist, one was Cannibal Holocaust, and The Texas Chainsaw Massacre was the third one. I believe that there were only three. For some reason, the name, just the word massacre in a film, immediately turned my parents off, and they said, "You're not watching this. I don't care how many times you ask for it." So I never got a chance to see it till I was maybe a freshman in high school. It was the first time I was actually allowed to watch it. I saw the other two films before that. But wow, I understand why people were sort of turned off by this. But this is actually a well executed film. I mean, it tells, you have five friends who were driving through Texas, and upon hearing that graves are being desecrated and there are grave robberies, they decide to stop at a cemetery to see if their grandfather's grave has been disturbed. Well, it really hasn't, so they make their way down the road and they pick up a hitchhiker. And you could tell that this hitchhiker is not your typical hitchhiker. And from as soon as he gets in there in that van, you know they're not going to have a good time. And from what unfolds is a night of just absolute terror and shock and awe. And after watching this, I was like, this is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen, and I have to have more. So I went out and I bought a copy of it on VHS, and then I rented the sequel, and it's not the first one, but it's good. But still, this film is still one of the most influential films that's ever been made. And thanks to this film, without this film, this is how Tobe Hooper got his job directing Poltergeist. Now, Poltergeist, that's another story, another argument for another day. But man, this movie, it still holds up almost 50 years later, and it still holds up. Now, getting into the technical aspects of this release, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is presented in a native 4K resolution with Dolby Vision and HDR10 color grading. And for the audio tracks, you get a Dolby Atmos track, an English DTS Master 7.1 track, a Master 2.0 track, and a Master 1.0 track. Which for purists, I'm glad those audio tracks are still on this release. I will say the film is improved greatly with the addition of the Dolby Vision and HDR10 color grading. It gives it a nice enhancement over the detail and the brightness of colors. There are some scenes where the depth is enhanced greatly as opposed to the releases that we've gotten previously. Just the colors that seem to just jump out, the reds and the greens, even the blacks are even deeper and darker. Now, there are some scenes, especially at night, where it's black and it just kind of swallows up, some of the detail. And I thought that might have been an issue with crushing, but it's probably the way it was shot to begin with, and you really couldn't even everything out without it sort of looking fake. I couldn't find any issues with DNR in this release. You know, there is film grain there, and we love seeing film grain on these old films. I didn't see any scenes where it could have been blotchy or kind of pixelated or anything where someone may have overused the DNR. I couldn't find, again with the black crushing, I couldn't find any instances where there was some added shading to scenes, like when they're in the house, or maybe sometimes in the van, or when Sally goes into the gas station at night and runs into the cook. I couldn't find any instances where there may have been some extra shading or anything like that. No issues with blooming. Aside from that, I mean, they really use the Dolby Vision and the HDR10 color grading. They really used it very well. As for the audio, I was made aware that they were going to add an Atmos track to this release, and I thought to myself, why? There's really no need for an Atmos track in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You don't have any explosions, there's no musical scenes, there's not enough to warrant it. There's no crowds or noises in the background that would necessitate the use of a Dolby Atmos track. Unless you're just wanting to say, I'm putting Dolby Atmos on this and you need to buy it. However, after watching this, the addition of the Dolby Atmos track is very well done. I mean, from the very beginning of the film, and for those of you who have seen it, you know what I'm getting ready to talk about. After the flash bulbs go off and you hear that sound, that piercing sound. Now, I have no idea how Toby created this sound. I heard that it was either a tuning fork or something or other that was rubbed up against a piano wire. I don't know. I think Toby took that secret to the grave, and it's just, when you hear it, especially with the Atmos track, they ratchet it up. As soon as it hits, you feel it, and it's so unnerving and jarring. And when continuing on in the film, where you hear Sally screaming, that's another way that this Dolby Atmos track really pays off. Just listening to that blood-curdling scream and how it just reverberates throughout the sound system and your house. The chainsaw aspects of it, when you're listening to it, it's not as loud as you think it would be in certain scenes, but during like the jump scare scene when Leatherface goes after Franklin, it's cranked up. And then at the very end of the film, when Sally gets away and he's twirling his chainsaw around, it's like that scene from This Is Spinal Tap. We're going to crank it to an 11, and it just gets louder and louder and louder. I can't stress this enough. I'm so glad that they did put the Atmos track on this release, and it really brings out the ambiance of the film and just the overall dread and nightmarish aspect of it. It really enhances it. Now, getting into the special features that come with this release, on the 4K disc, the only thing that's there are just 4 commentary tracks, and 2 of them are with Tobe Hooper. But the Blu-ray disc, that's where the money is. You get 2 brand new documentaries. One of them, I think it's detailing the legacy of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and the other one is a Q&A with William Friedkin, who directed The Exorcist, and director Tobe Hooper. You get 2 additional documentaries, all 4 lasting over an hour in length. You get TV spots, radio spots, trailers. There are various interviews. One of them is with the guy who played Grandpa, and he's only in it for 5 minutes. You get a tour of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house itself with Leatherface, with Gunnar Hansen. You get outtakes from one of the previous documentaries that are on here. You get deleted scenes. It's just, if you love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, this release will blow you away, and it's worth the money. I guarantee it. Before I give my final thoughts on this, I want to show you guys what the release actually looks like. And this is the steel book that I got. If you notice, if the light hits the chainsaw, it sort of brightens up. And this is the poster from the 1970, the theatrical poster. On the back, it's just nothing, just white. There's a look at the spine. And on the inside, you get some artwork, and it's everybody's favorite dinner scene. Now it comes with 2 discs with artwork, and this is the Blu-ray disc that has nothing but just the bonus features on it. There's no movie on here. And here's the 4K disc. Sort of similar artwork, but kind of different. And they're both from the very end of the film when Leatherface is just losing it. Alright, so my final thoughts on this film and this release. For the film, this is one of the greatest horror films that's ever been made. Hands down. You can't beat it. Just the gritty look to it, and the way it was shot, and the score, the sounds that they used. It gave us a character that still lives on to this day, even though they've made some very poorly made sequels and reboots. But still, this is still the best one, and it still holds up almost 50 years later. I would put this film up there next to Night of the Living Dead, the first Night of the Living Dead by George Romero, and Carpenter's Halloween, Bob Clark's Black Christmas. It just still gets under your skin by some of the things that you see in this film. As for the release itself, I mean, it has its flaws, but this is the best this film is probably ever going to look, and we're ever going to get it. Now, I don't know what Second Sight has planned for their release later on this year. They say it's going to look better, but I doubt it. I think they both use the same film transfer. But anyway, if you're thinking of picking this up, let me know down in the comments below. But if you absolutely love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, pick this up. You will not be disappointed. Unless you're into collecting all kinds of editions, you could pick this one up and the one from Second Sight up. But if you just want one definitive copy, get this one. Because with the other one, you're going to have to pay overseas shipping, and you don't want to do that. This one you can find on Amazon, and I'll post a link for it down in the description, because it'll really help out the channel. But yeah, this one I highly, highly, highly recommend. It holds up. The bonus features are outstanding. I hope and pray that they will still do a transfer of like this for Night of the Living Dead, the first Night of the Living Dead. I wish they would. Probably won't though. But yeah, I highly recommend picking this up. If you're a fan of slasher films, if you're a fan of horror, just pick it up. I highly recommend it. So if you're thinking about picking this up, leave me a comment down in the section below. If you like what you see, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. So until next time, see you later.